Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's OCTA time, and this is a big one today, a very, very important one. And by the way, I am here for alpha. I don't care whatever form it takes as long as it doesn't harm anybody. So let's get into today's story. It'll be an interesting one. I'm trying to think, should I have myself? Maybe. Little guy in the top left corner. How about that? And I'll jump out for facial appearances. DBF 420. Thank you for coming. TD Tesla, Sean Donnelly, Margie, JT, Dex, everybody from all over the world. It's so good to see everybody. It's incredible, and I'm so honored to be here every day for you all. Let's get into it. This is called Hedge, yourself versus Obsolescence. And yeah, there's a couple of twists in here in this story today, but let's start off with disclaimer, not financial advice, and shout out to Patreon from Wagabond. Patreon has access to IA's work and push emails with priceless info every day. I strongly recommend. Thank you so much. And I love sharing stuff. And you get to see inside my little head. Anyhow, let's start with the ugly news. I hope audio and everything is working, by the way. I forgot to check. Yes. It is working. That's always nice when you have audio and you're not talking to yourself. First sign of madness. Let's talk about token unlocks, however. As usual, this name called Athena every single week. Every week is here. Terrible tokenomics. Crypto Compendium will tell you how bad it is. And again, another, I don't know what, 6%, 5% this week in a unlock. Wow. Anyway, big, what did I see? Athena, Eigen. I can't read the exact numbers. Anyway, unlock again like every week. Fetch, unlock, 2.3%. Cello, 3%. I don't know what that. Some of these names I don't even understand. Optimism, I do know. And that's a negative, which means there's a burn, which is good. Sui is there, 2.92%. And remember how people freaked out about Solana having a 2% unlock for like 6 months when other names just have it all the time? Anyway, let's move on. That's the unlock stuff. Speaking of Athena and tokenomics, it is the one on the far right-hand side here, the worst performer over the last 90 days, down 60%. Bitcoin down 14%. Sol down worse than Bitcoin, down about 25%. And 4 or 5 names up to the left. 2 of them with X's. XMR, which is the payments thing. Stella something. And XRP. Again, I focus on very few names. It's impossible to understand the 30 million tokens out there, but I try very hard to understand the top 500. Anyway, that is where we are over the last 90 days. Not good. Thank God we're out of the ugly news and get into the bad news for a second. Narrative time. Everything is down. There was a time there for a couple of weeks that real world assets was the only group that was up. Now everything is down and suffering. Ethereum over the last month down 26.6%. Bitcoin down 8.5%. But we'll talk about some monthly stuff as well. Some other stuff down a hell of a lot more. So it's been a rough time for crypto. We had a little mini crypto winter in the middle of winter, but now it's spring and things are springing back as we've been showing here for a while. Some things are not springing back, however. This is the Lightning Network, which is kind of the saving grace for Bitcoin to get faster for things like payments. And you can see here recently the number of channels has declined to around 52,700, down from 90,000. That's not good. And also, if you look at the left-hand side is the sum channel value in Bitcoin terms, that's actually fallen off a little bit too. So not perfect. We need something better, cheaper, faster to run for Bitcoin. And who knows, maybe it'll come from a chain like Solana. We hope so, at least. Also, another bad news, the Philly US Manufacturing Index hit the lowest level since 2020. This is not good. What this typically means, everybody, is recession. And as I've been saying for a long time, by the time the government tells you you're in a recession, you're already coming out of it. And yes, we are in a recession, according to this. Now, time for some good news, some interesting ones. Fear and greed is back to 46. So people are getting greedy. In fact, a couple of things are spiking in after hours. As you see here, Tesla shot up again more, and after hours is up above 290 right now. Bitcoin up another $400 since I started. 88,400 was at 88K. And everything is firing. MicroStrategy had a huge day, massive day up today, up, up another 6 or 8 bucks. Anyway, all things are doing pretty well. The other very important thing to note is Bitcoin reclaims the 200-day moving average. Typically, in a bull market, Bitcoin stays above the 200-day moving average. And you can see that's the red line here going back years and years and years, 2023. We sometimes breach it, particularly in a bear market, but it doesn't stay under there for long. So if you want the crudest, simplest buying signal for Bitcoin on the whole planet, in a bull, buy under the 200-day moving average. It's a no-brainer. Throw a dart. You cannot miss. You will do well. Unless, of course, it's a bear market. Then you can stay under the 200-day moving average for quite some time, especially in the early part of the bear. But the bear only outlasts a year. So anyway, roll on the next bear. I'm one of these weird people that gets excited for bear markets. And let's talk about this for a second. This is an interesting one. Short-term holder, long-term holder dynamics. And what exactly does this mean and why do we care? Well, this is very indicative of where the price action goes for Bitcoin. The short-term holders are people that hold Bitcoin or purchase it under 155 days ago. And the long-term holders are those that purchased more than 155 days. And you can break this down many different ways. You can see in the chart here, the red line is long-term holders, about 73.4% currently. Short-term holders, 26.5%. Now, a lot of short-term holders also include some stacking by big names that will be included here, like the 7,000 Bitcoin purchase by MicroStrategy yesterday. Things like that would fit in here. And then they get locked away, and then they become much more of a long-term hold after 155 days, of course. The reason this is important is if you look at the 2024 numbers, the consolidation period showed an unusual pattern. The long-term holder supply grew initially due to the spot ETF flows. And then Bitcoin's pushing price from 70K to 100K after November 5th. A lot of coins crossed the 155-day threshold into long-term holder territory. But by November 2024, as prices hit all-time highs, long-term holders began moving again, taking a little bit of profit. Now, here we are. We're coming into April 2025, and this is the stage, right? When things changed hands, there is probably, and I'm forecasting forward, a lot of short-term holder coins that will go over that 155-day threshold and become long-term holder. So when we come back to this from the Bitcoin layer, that number should be closer to 80% of coins won't have moved for at least 155 days. So that's an interesting way to understand exactly when the long-term holders are selling. They typically sell a little bit when prices are high, and then they buy when prices are low, and then they hold. And we're going to watch this carefully. So very interesting dynamic. Now, I'm going to hide my face here for a second. March could turn positive. March historically is always very positive with the exception of C19 back in 2020. Hard to believe it's 5 years ago. Mad. But now Bitcoin is actually now 2.5% away from being positive. It's down 2.5% for the month of March. I think we are going to head positive in March. You can only keep this big beach ball underwater for so long. And that will set us up. The reason I care, that's going to set us up for a very positive April. Average April returns for Bitcoin are 35.2%. It's the second best month of the year. And why am I so confident? Well, we saw Feb. It sucked. The average return on Feb is 14.6%. We were down 14.6%. That's nearly a 30% basis point swing for seasonality performance, which normally hangs. January was fine. March is way off, but we still have a few days left. We've got 5 days left of March, 5 or 6 days to get up there and get into positive territory, setting us up for a bonkers April. We'll see if I'm right. good thing about videos is you can always go back and check and see what I said is right. Anyway, ETFs are also turning around after the worst 5 weeks ever and the worst month ever for the ETFs. This is an important aspect here because we saw the big reversal last week and $650 million flow into Bitcoin ETFs. That is big. That's 2/3 of $1 billion. And I expect this week to be positive as well. In fact, if you look at the ETF flows here, 8 of the last 9 days were positive. So things happen in fits and starts. There is a period where people sell off and get nervous. They worry about tariffs and other nonsense. And then they say, oh, these tariff things won't be so bad. And then they buy again. It's the same pattern every time. Anyway, we'll watch this space carefully. Also, crypto over the last 7 days versus Bitcoin, we saw some unusual stuff. Ethereum was up a little bit. Sol was up over Bitcoin, XRP as well. Some other names weren't: Binance, Cardano, Tron, etc. But that's in Bitcoin terms. In fiat terms, you can see Bitcoin had a good week. In fact, it's even higher now because Bitcoin is, as we speak, 88,400, not 88,000 per this chart that we just took. And let me check on the ETH price because ETH, $2,077. So yeah, ETH is recovering a bit under, it fell under the 2K level. Now it's coming back. But what's also interesting to note, it is still very much Bitcoin season, not alt season. Shane should make some custom emojis. We do, French Toaster. We do have custom emojis. Some people make them in Discord. Now, speaking of alt season and Bitcoin season, a couple of very strange things happened here when we look at the flows by asset over last week. It's always interesting to find out where the money is going. But here you can see very clearly Ethereum faced the heaviest outflows, losing a whopping $86 million, while other assets had good inflows. Solana, 6.4 million. Polygon and Chainlink, they think they're 200 grand each or something. A little positive, but there was big outflows out of Sui, 1.3 million, Polkadot, 1.3 million, Tron, 1 million, Algorand, 800,000. So a bit of a mixed bag, but I think people are getting ready for that Sol ETF, which is coming. Oh, mark my words, this year. You just got to be patient. Now, this was another cool thing from Satoshi's Musk on X. I love this because I was thinking the same thing, but didn't do it, didn't take the action. But he said ailing firms that are already financially peaked, just GameStop with 4.6 billion in cash, Intel 20 billion in cash, Boeing 12 billion in cash, Macy's 1 to 2 billion in cash, General Motors 20 billion in cash, and Walgreens 1 to 2 billion should instantly convert their cash balances to Bitcoin to avoid obscurity and irrelevance. That is so true. As I say, 40 to 60% of the S&P 500 are dinosaurs. They're zombies. They are just going to disappear into irrelevance over the next 5 years or so. And these dinosaurs only have one shot to dodge the asteroid, and that is Bitcoin or bust, the Sailor playbook. We'll see. I doubt any would have the courage to do this. Maybe. I know GameStop is. They've already put their toe in the water and they're probably going to do it again. And they can just issue shares and buy Bitcoin and dodge irrelevancy, which is wonderful. So we'll see more of this as we go forward. This is another cool chart of the amount of adoption around the world from CryptoRank. Basically, less than 4% of the world's population owns Bitcoin. In fact, it's a lot less. But it shows you how early, once again, we still are. A lot of people think we are late. Remember, risk happens fast. Rule number 54 or 54, I think it is. And there'll come a time where there'll be a tipping point. Just like S-curves within, say, EV adoption and stuff like that, it starts gradually. But once you hit 5%, 8%, then it goes whoop, vertical. We're getting close, real close to that 5 to 8%. Then things will kick off. Then we'll see crazy stuff happening. But looking at this data, you can see we're still early. North America has the highest penetration at 10.7%. Regions like Africa, Oceania remain below 4%. In fact, I just analyzed my audience. Top countries are US, UK, Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Germany. Very interesting. So anyway, shout out to those countries. Maybe there's a correlation between people that watch this channel and other Bitcoin channels and Bitcoin adoption. I hope so. And South America is coming up there as well. Angle Blackson, good to see you. Let's look at stocks the last 7 days. It has been a big week for Tesla, up 26% and up even more now in after hours. Tesla is gone up another $3 in after hours, about 291. So that's close to 300, and then off to the races once again. Amazon up 6.5%, Meta 7.3%, Google 5.8%, Microsoft 3%, Nvidia 5%. So things are coming back again, like, the tariff terrors were just temporary, and now they're going to be much more surgical. So the markets are no longer concerned about that. Also, we're getting into not just Tesla seasonality, but also S&P 500 seasonality as well. Shout out to Josh for sharing this earlier. He's big on seasons, and so am I. But you can see here, typically, March can suck. And January, February are up, March down for the S&P 500. This is history over years and years and years. I think about 15 years of history in here. But then what's interesting is April, things kick off. We go up in April, we go up in May, June, up a little bit, then July, up big, then August. People go away on vacation, nothing happens in August. And September is historically one of the roughest months of the year for the stock market. And then the last quarter, off to the races again. Watch this seasonality. Think about it as well when it comes to positioning yourself, deploying cash, and taking profits out of the market too. So important. Now, there is another piece of good news too. This is Bitcoin versus QQQ. NASDAQ is on the left-hand side in white. Bitcoin's on the right-hand side in purpley, bluey color, whatever that is. And you can see here that you could argue QQQ got hit harder than Bitcoin. Bitcoin was very steady. But normally, Bitcoin falls a lot faster than the QQQ. That did not happen. Now, on a percentage basis, again, it also shows that the QQQ fell more than Bitcoin. Now, the reason this is positive for me is it tells me that Bitcoin, despite all of the fear and terror in the markets and traditional markets and altcoins getting hammered, Bitcoin was very, very strong. So what happens when the overall market rebounds? I think Bitcoin's going to shoot above 90K pretty soon, probably before the end of the month, and then back to 100K. That's what I believe could happen. We shall see. Also, like crypto is back to almost neutral, the stocks are back to fear out of extreme fear. So people are getting much more confident and deploying more into the actual markets. Now, a little bit of the HODL model update. We had some big changes here in the HODL model. And what's super interesting about this too is the fact that there are certain names that keep on stacking and hitting new highs. So what's in orange has been updated. We saw MicroStrategy getting above 500,000 Bitcoin. There are now 506,137 Bitcoin. Marathon just broke 47,000 Bitcoin of HODL. Remember, they mine as well as buy. So it's a double whammy. And it's interesting. When you look at the NAV premium for MicroStrategy, it went from 1.47 to 1.93. So we're heading back to 2 for MicroStrategy. And people don't understand the infinite money glitch, no matter how many years. My third video ever in 2020 was about MicroStrategy. And I've been the longest bull ever in this asset. And it's been beyond life-changing for everybody here. So congratulations to the early adopters of MicroStrategy. But what's cool here is when we get back to 2, wow, all the proxies will come alive again as well. And just for fun, Marathon had $2.61 billion in non-Bitcoin assets at the end of 2024. Okay, that's say less than 12 weeks ago. And this is from Crypto Klepto. He kicked me this information, which I found very interesting as well. So think about it. They also, since then, have purchased a wind farm, more rigs, etc. And all of this stuff, this 2.61 billion plus all the new acquisitions, literally is a fraction of the value of the entire enterprise. So when you buy Marathon, you're buying a massive Bitcoin bag and you're getting 90% off all their other assets. It's a complete crazy financial glitch, but I do believe the miners will have a pump sometime this year. They have been very lackluster. A lot of people thought it would kick off like last year or last bull run, but no, that's not the case at all. Anyhow, NAV premium for Marathon is 1.16. Still very cheap. It fell as though it was 1.06, 1.07 a couple of weeks back too. Now, back to MicroStrategy. These slides never get old. NVIDIA, the greatest stock story in the history of the world when you ignore MicroStrategy. I happen to own the first 4 on this list. I own them all. MicroStrategy, NVIDIA, Bitcoin, Tesla. I had Meta, but I sold it. Never owned gold. And gold is up 56%, which has been the best return for gold, by the way, in the last 5 years. But remember, that's over 5 years. So a lot of people are saying gold is crazy good and everything else. But compared to MicroStrategy at nearly 2,400% return, gold 56%, I beg the question, what's in your wallet? And Tesla has sucked, but that's all about to change too as well. Only up 163%. Now, back to miners. Bitcoin miners is a cool chart from Coinmetrics, and it shows you the blue piece is their transaction fees, which is down slightly from the last quarter and up from the previous quarter to that. But all the ordinal stuff has kind of faded away, so they're not making as much as transactions. But the block subsidies are hanging tight there. They're pulling in about 3.5 billion, 3.5 billion from the block subsidies, which is keeping them alive. It hasn't shrunk, which is good news. Now, I got to turn my little camera off again. Let's talk about real world assets for a second. This is from Solana Floor. BlackRock, and this is under the stock category. The world's largest money runner expands its blockchain-based money market fund to Solana in partnership with Securitize. Again, this whole real-world asset business is massive. I do believe it'll be one of the top crypto narratives after stablecoins, DEXs, DeFi. It'll be not NFTs, not memes. It'll be real-world assets because that's where the TradFi money is. And Sol is the chain to do it. And BlackRock, the biggest money runner on earth, is in. So watch this space carefully. This narrative will pop. And in order to see how much it is actually growing, if you look here, the real world assets managed by crypto is up 250% over the last 12 months. Again, speaking of another S curve, we're going vertical, everybody, vertical, which is good. And we just crossed $10 billion as well. It'll take a lot less time to go to 100 billion than it did from 0 to 10 billion. That's just how it works. It could even happen in a year or less. Anyway, we'll watch this space very carefully. Also, speaking of 10xing and 10 billions, etc., Kathy Wood was on the TV, and she believes there's a couple of interesting things about this. And I know people grow and say, oh, Kathy is a legend, okay? Kathy is impeccable at research. I do question some of her choices and assets and some of her timing, but no firm is as good as they are at research. But it shows you as well how hard investing is. Investing is a blood sport, as I always say. But she says Tesla will 10x in the next 5 years. But what I find crazy about this is she says 90% of that 10x valuation will be from robotaxis. They don't even model robots, okay? And I think this is a big blind spot, but it's also very comforting to know that their very sophisticated price prediction models don't take into account the biggest thing that's coming, which is robots. So I call this sandbagging extraordinaire. And how else are you going to get a 10x? And then I think, okay, 10x. Tesla was like at $200 a few days ago. Now it's nearly at 300. Things happen in a few days. It went pretty crazy. But say 300, 10x, that becomes a $3,000 stock in 5 years. For Bitcoin to do the same thing, that needs to go to 880,000, call it $900,000 a coin 5 years from now. The question is, which will perform better? And you know where my money is going and my plan for rotation as well. Anyway, speaking of bots and valuation model, the orange part here is Robotaxi. And the reason I'm sharing this is so people can understand what Cathie Wood is not taking into account. That's the green part. That's robots. And that's how it goes exponential. And this is sandbagged. I modeled this multiple times with Cernbasher, and that's our sandbagged prediction. So again, things get kind of crazy. But what people fail to understand is how you can create something for $15,000 and then it can create $50,000 a year in return. The financial models break down when it comes to modeling out that type of return on investment. That's why things will get exponential. Just watch this space. It'll be fun. And shout out to Shay and Sanjay. Bots are coming and nothing else matters. This industry is going to be huge and they are not as far away as you think. In fact, they're coming this year. And even more crazy breaking news from Axios. Don't normally read Axios unless, of course, they're talking about fun stuff. But what they are hearing is Tesla next week is participating in a symposium on Capitol Hill. And they will have Optimus humanoid robot running around the congressional offices. Crazy. It's pretty clear that robots obviously have some type of security importance to a nation, not only for growing GDP and strength of the economy, but also perhaps other uses. I hope not military ones, etc. But we hope if anybody's in DC, they can come and get a glimpse of the future. I've been around these bots at the We Robot event in Los Angeles, and it was an experience to behold. All staff are welcome. And I think it'll be in the Canon office building, if you know where that is too. So here we are, robots and government hand in hand for the first time ever. Unless, of course, we're in China, where they understand the importance of these things. But it's good to see that the US government does as well. And this is kind of the vision for the story today. A cool little meme I saw earlier. And investing in Tesla and AI and bots is a hedge against becoming obsolete in the future. As we've been urging here, as other people and other channels urge too, now is the time to deploy your capital to protect your future. You know, being dependent on a job and a salary or a wage, that's not going to cut it 5 years from now, or maybe even less. So remember, bots are a hedge against obsolescence. And I stress this as well. Even if you have biases against Elon or Tesla or whatever, put that aside. Remember, as Shay says, these things are coming and nothing else will matter. Okay? They're already here. If you're not invested in these things, you will be left behind. There's no doubt about that. And that's my message. So I hope it didn't cause any upset people. And despite the narrative from the mainstream media, nobody's buying Teslas. Well, the new Model Y is ramping in Europe. It's ramping in the US. It's ramping in China. And so are sales spiking as well. In fact, you cannot even order a new Model Y in the United States. In most states, they're all sold out, everybody. And Europe is coming online too. And those things will also do much better in March compared to previous quarters where they were turning over the line in Berlin. So that's more good news there. And this could be, this is from SMR, Solving the Money Problem, Stephen Mark Ryan. This was retweeted by Elon Musk. And he said, Stephen said, something big is happening as investors and patriots load up on Tesla stock. We don't know what it is, but it's unusual for Elon Musk to repost something like this. He's not reposting the obvious, which is Tesla stock is surging, but something big is happening. I don't know if it's bot news. I don't know if it's the new Model 2. I don't know if it's the excitement about robotaxis, which are going to be like 2 months away now. Hopefully launch in June in Austin, Texas. And that will be big. And finally, I try to finish on a very positive, fun meme du jour note of the day. And this is a cool chart I saw earlier today, is TA for deciding what lunch is. When the markets are booming, you can afford great meals. And when markets are down, you go back to the ramen noodles and the Jiffy and stuff. And I spent quite a bit of my life eating ramen noodles as well. And I know they're not healthy, but sometimes when you need a quick snack and you have no money, it works. Thank you all. All these videos are turned into podcasts and emails for less than 10 cents a day. I think there's still a sale going on. Thank you all once again for coming. Thank you to the moderators in the chat. I hope you enjoyed OCTA. I'll see you all tomorrow. Interesting one tomorrow to answer a common question that you all have and still don't get. And it's going to be so important. It's about melting ice cubes. Thanks all for coming. Appreciate you. And I love this community too. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, T&D, Sean D, 97, 420 Empire. And a lot of UKers here today, I see. Mr. Dax and Margie and a bottle of red. Bitcoin Maximax. What an amazing time. Be safe, everybody.